The rock is flying. And he is not able to control the rock, it's flying on its own. But the Rebbe is able to control the rock all the way down to its final top. So you can always start right in the middle. So this is like this very superficial aspect. He is able to withhold things from happening that will tend to happen. This is kol yochid. There's no kol yochid in it. This is here. You can do this. You can do this. You can do that. Where's the kol yochid come in here? Again, this is the kol yochid and very superficial. All things that you can identify, you can do when they come up. But we explain that the kol yochid is an all-encompassing aspect at all times. In other words, a rock is flying. And he allows the light to fly. At the same time, as the rock is flying, the rock is flying, he's also stopping the rock. Now with this kol yochid, the phenomenon of kol yochid, both the positive and negative are all the time there. And this is in fact, we're not finished with it, we just want to bring it to some kind of, to bring out this point. The fact is, when a person throws a rock, halachically, he's responsible for whatever the rock does. Whatever occurs from this one. Now, let's reflect. He threw the rock. At the time when he threw, he was in control of the rock, and he was responsible for what he's doing. But once the rock left his hand, he's no longer in control of the rock. Why is he then responsible for what the rock does at that point? He's no longer involved in it. It's not his action anymore. The rock is doing things on its own.
Since
What?
Since Baruch is not here, maybe you should do the coaching.
How come? Yeah, I didn't. How come Baruch is not here? You should give him the patch. Yeah, I'll call. I'll call him the conference. Oh,
Can someone I didn't hear the tape very well. Is it possible to repeat the question that he's asking?
I think it's going to be developed, but it would be interesting to summarize what points are being brought out here. I think we're going to be looking at the culpability. Somebody throws something, we assume, or just the natural course of events, that the one throwing it is culpable for the damage. The question seems to be, why do you make that assumption? Or is there not someone else, namely the maker himself, who's a participant and the ultimate one responsible? That was my takeaway from it. I might be wrong. But I think this is what it's driving at. Shlomo, did you want to say something about what you've understood here with this whole rock, Marshall? Shlomo Banda? You don't want to say anything. Okay, fine, no problem. And how about you, Baruch?
Well, the rock mushel, I didn't quite grasp, or maybe I did at the time that it was being said, but I'm not sure I do now. What is the connection between the rock mushel and what we're talking about now? Which is how come the creation doesn't come into being when it's all set, it's all ready. What's holding things back? What does that have to do with the rock mushel? How did we get from that to, like you're saying, culpability? It's actually, the word he used was attribution. We don't attribute the rock flying to the. We do attribute the rock flying to the human being. You threw the rock, and therefore you're responsible for whatever happens. And yet, the rock already left your hand. So
Yes.
why
are we doing this? Yes. I think my takeaway was we're coming at the problem from the opposite side, and we are not directly answering the main question, which seems to be, if it's a fact in his thought, why is it not already a creation? My understanding is we're now looking at things from Lamata Lamaila. Here in this world, it's sometimes obscured from us. We're not cognizant of the way that everything is made and connects back to the original maker. That was my takeaway and how it fits into the bigger picture. I might have got this wrong, but does that sound okay for now?
I still don't understand if that's a mushel from the reverse direction. Who is what in that mushel? The rock thrower?
Well, if you remember one of the main themes we're dealing with is also, if everything is foreseen up above, how's there anything novel? How's there any element of choice here below?
Right.
And this mushel, I believe, highlights that or explores that to some extent.
Okay, I'm not sure I see how that happens.
Okay.
How that is made up, but fine.
Abraham's saying we're in the middle.
Go ahead.
It's just an interruption.
Well, it's not. We're going to be developing this module for the next 10, 15 minutes, and it's useful to know why we're getting into it and how because at the original shiur, I didn't grasp what we're doing entirely, and so I think it's pretty useful to discuss it. Abraham wants to hear more, and Yitzhak does as well.
Okay, I'm going to defer to Avram.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay, the vote is to move forward. Yeah. Daniel's one. Yeah.
We started by saying this mushal. One of the issues of this mushal is freedom of choice. Now, if I understand clearly what Rabbi PALTIEL said, is that once the stone is thrown with the intention of the thrower, while the stone flies, Hashem could change his direction. When we say everything is preordained, at every second, Hashem can change the course of things. That's the idea in the mushroom.
I don't think I got that at all, but
Okay.
Okay, the consensus is moving forward here. We're going to continue with Tuesday's shiur. Stand by. Thanks, Daniel.
Welcome to IDT Connect. Please enter your conference ID. Welcome to Thank you. You are now entering the conference room. To exit the conference room, press ***. For help, press *9. Participant number 1.
All right. Sorry, Jacob.
Too close from the mic.
I'd like we should get into this. It is totally irrational from a worldly perspective. The whole question. What?
In recap, we're saying that once the rock flies, it could fly, or Hashem could stop it. And on the other hand, we're saying the human being is responsible for what the rock does.
Well, they're two separate things. Hashem can stop it, but the human being cannot stop it. How can the human being be responsible for what occurs in this rock once he leaves his hand?
So this essentially what this is about, because he's going to expound and speak about it more. How he is focusing on the fact that although human perception, a worldly perception is that we are disassociated from the rock once it's in a fly, and therefore why is the responsibility? So that's where he's focusing. So in other words, there is still some kind of a connection between a person and a rock while it's in its flight. And that is correlated to Hashem's involvement in the world, continuous involvement in the world. That it's all good, all the time present. That's the focus here. That's the focus on this.
Perhaps.
You'll see what we'll
do. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. I'm not sure that is the main part. I don't know if that's correct, but okay, I hear you.
And that's a lot.
I know. What's halach? What's halach? So normally, we would say very simple. He's responsible for the time when he threw it, not when the time he's flying. When you threw it, the time when you threw it, these glass pieces were there, and therefore, and that throw is directly connected to the fact that they broke. At the time when he threw it, not at the time when it's flying.
You may think that he's only responsible at the moment.
Yeah. At the time when that's in his hand. Once it's flying, it's out of his hand.
So therefore what?
Why is he responsible for what happens?
He started a course of action.
What?
He started a course of action.
That's what I'm saying.
He's responsible.
No, I'm saying at the time when he started, at the time when he threw it, when it was in his hand.
But the result's going to follow. So
That's right.
Why would you think he's not responsible for the result?
No, please think it. His action ended at the time when he let the rock go from his hand. Now the rock flies because nature took over.
No, he had an intention.
What?
He had an intention when he.
Whether he had intention is insignificant. But his ability to participate is not a participant in this.
Right. His responsibility is based on the fact that he caused it.
Okay, that's what I said. So this is our normal response. His responsibility is the fact that he started it. In other words, the responsibility goes back to the time when he let the rock go from his hand, not when the rock is flying.
Therefore,
one second. This is how we understand it. What?
I want to know something. The act of throwing, when something is thrown, already the thrower has transferred his power to the rock, to the thrown thing. One would not, it's not like he put the rock like up here and it was going to stay like up here. It's going, there's a trajectory.
And
So it seems to me that it's part of a continuous action.
there is, okay, we'll pick up on that. The question is, how is the continuous action? He is no longer connected to it. He will let go of the rock.
We're using this to focus on the way that action occurs across time, or action begins and then it continues without our input.
We are using this to try to understand the principle that Hashem's knowledge of anything in the world is the ultimate source and koyach for it occurring.
Bush, you heard that, right?
Yes, I did. So at least what was just said, the point over here is the contrast, I think, between the rock being thrown and Hashem's knowledge. That at least the way we look at it, once the rock is thrown, it doesn't have any connection anymore to the human being. Whenever we do it attributing responsibility, the rock seems to be flying on its own. So let me just stop for a second. But in fact, we do attribute responsibility. The rock is always connected in our minds to human beings and through it. So similarly, when Hashem knows something in the world, his knowledge with that thing is constantly bringing it into being the whole time it's happening.
Okay, I'm not sure if you're summarizing it accurately. I'm going to back it up 10 seconds and let's run into it. So let's see if we get it clarified here.
Hashem's knowledge.
Action occurs across time, or action begins and then it continues without our input.
We are using this to try to understand the principle that Hashem's knowledge of anything in the world is the ultimate source and koyach for it occurring. Not only that, the ability of a human being to affect things in the world is actually
Wait.
every,
I don't want another interruption.
The interrupt doesn't want to interrupt, so I'm fine with that.
reflection and an actualization of that which is divinely known. So in order to put that in perspective, I went to a different area completely. You would see. But into our own orientation in the world. We hold the person responsible for the flight of the rock, even though he's no longer in control of it.
That's a muscle for he's the originator and therefore responsible.
No, I didn't come to I didn't answer that. I'm just pointing out that this is so to speak, an accepted truth. And now we have to try and understand what is the basis of this truth. On what basis is it accepted?
Is it possible to just make an extension of what these stuff were about?
What this brought up is good.
Right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It says that. I appreciate that. I'm still making sure that we understand the question.
I have a hard time understanding it because what he brought up is.
No, but the question, okay, fine, but the question in itself is also kind of counterintuitive, the way we function.
What
What do you mean by the way we function?
The way we think of things.
This?
The way we think of things, you threw the rock, therefore you're responsible for its flight. There's no need to explain it. But when you go down to the issue itself, let me explain the issue. Let me elaborate on this a little bit. The responsibility for the plot and for the effect of the rock. The rock flew and it broke some cave or it hurt somebody. The responsibility for this act is not merely a human level responsibility. You caused my cave to be broken, so you have to pay for it. The responsibility for this act is a true responsibility. True responsibility means that there is a divine element in this. Because, please understand, this is what I've been talking about the whole time, trying to make this up. When you break a cave, there are two things that happen. Thing one, this cave belonged to this and this person. You caused him damage. The other thing is you broke a viable piece in the world. And breaking a viable piece in the world is a prohibition. It's called PALTIEL.
To remain on this call, press 1.
It's called
Needless to
In other words, a violation of a divine principle in the world. This is not just inter-human. This is a worldwide or a divine level of violation.
With the opposite, it is because it's a divine violation, it reflects in the human situation. He's posed to other guys. Okay, so either way, there's the human level and the divine.
The human being has caused a divine level violation, and this is what he's responsible for. At least in some level. And the divine level violation is there all the time. Not all the time they threw the rock, but all the time. Even the time when the rock hit the object. It's the same thing.
Right, but what does that mean that it's there all the time? I didn't understand that.
It means that
violation existed before
that's exactly what we're trying to explain. It means that it is not merely the act of the throw. It is the act and the resultant flight and the resultant hit.
Wait a minute, is that to say sort of preordained all the time?
Okay, this is what we're trying to understand.
Okay.
Since we got into it, I'd like to get down to the bottom of this. When a rock flies, in our perception, once you threw it, it flies on its own. It's completely out, so to speak, of any control. It's not flying because it's destined to fly. It's flying because it's flying in no man's land. You know, no man's land. It's flying nowhere. It's out of human control. It's flying.
To remain on this call, press 1.
And from that perspective, we may ask the question, since that it's flying in no man's land, how can we hold him responsible for this? Please, before you ask a question, think it through. Understand what we're trying to say. We understand how this works out on the simple human level. But we're talking about the Torah responsibility. Not that you damage my kid, pay for the damages.
Well, I'm thinking of the case of the guy throwing the rock and kills the person.
That's right. That's right. How is he responsible? The rock can't kill the person. Maybe should be responsible. Maybe should make the rock fly.
He's going to lose his life.
What?
He's going to lose his life as a consequence.
That's your decision. That's the best decision. This is not his action. I know this question is odd in terms of our normal experience. But if you think in terms of a broader reality.
Yeah. You mentioned the third party, namely that God is a sort of partner in this whole episode.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So why am I responsible? The question is like this. When you throw a rock, and the rock is flying, the flight of the rock, in what way is it connected to your throw?
Right, in other words, saying imagine that it's like there's no unifying reality. It's like me here.
The reason you're talking about, it's not you.
You're saying no, basically no, forget laws of nature. You're saying God is a partner in making this happen.
The laws of nature. Nature is responsible. But my act is finished. Until I let go of the rock, I'm not connected to it. I can be responsible for having caused it, but that's a different kind of responsibility.
You ask me if, like, if I start a fire and the whole house burns down, but I just burn my possession over here. That's like a mission of it. You're asking why?
No. That's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Because the fire is the same fire.
And the rock, you're saying is different.
It's different. That's why the rock is.
No difference. It's a different point in time. I begin the emotion, and now it moves across time. My behavior runs and
Is the motion of the flight of the rock? Is it the same motion that began when I strung my hand?
that was Yitzhak's point, that it is a continuation.
I'm not talking about Yitzhak's point. I'm asking how is it? That's right. How is it in our perception?
Right. We live in a world where there is continuity in.
The continuity is a sense of responsibility.
And you're saying that's the third party. That's God's.
That's right. Yeah. Continuity is true because
right.
that's the nature of things. It's not me.
Right. But my understanding is he kind of grants us freedom, and we need to act responsibly, and we.
No question about it.
Right. Should we get ready for davening or what's up? Yeah. Okay. Shlomo and anybody else, Baruch?
Thank you.
Thank you, Shlomo. Getting ready for davening.